Hello, you're watching Saints Live. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
And a very warm welcome to a sunny St Mary's Stadium, where today the Saints are on home soil for the second time this week. Brighton are the opponents this afternoon, and with both teams drawing midweek, they'll both be searching for 3 points today, Steve.
They certainly will, Kenzie. Now, joining us to discuss everything pre-match, first of all, we have a man who played for both teams, but I am told that his heart lies firmly on the red side of the South Coast. In person joining us, we have former Southampton captain Dean Hammond. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Steve, very well. And you're right, I will be supporting Southampton today, but I brought my son with me today, and I'm not sure where his allegiance are, I must admit, but we won't ask him that question.
Well, speaking of son, a different kind of son, also joining us, we have a man who we're told to get off of the sun lounger and hide all the empty glasses of margaritas, all the way from Lanzarote. It's Adam Leitch. How are you doing, Adam? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm sort of sorry I can't be with you in person. Sort of sorry. Yeah, I'm sure you all feel heartbroken for me. I think I said before I came on, it was a bit blustery out here yesterday in the 23 degrees. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll get a lot of sympathy for that.
I'm afraid not. It's certainly all right for some, isn't it? But really glad you could join us, Adam. But we will jump straight in because the team news is coming up in less than 15 minutes' time, and actually quite a lot to digest today. We can see the team arriving here at St Mary's Stadium. Shane Long there and Oriol Romeu. So the team news then: Jan Bednarek is out with a calf injury. We also know that Fraser Forster picked up a small knock in training and could miss out today. And of course, Stuart Armstrong is still unavailable.
That's right. Now, Dean, we did speak about the defence on Wednesday night. We know that Jan Bednarek's going to be missing today. So who would you partner with Mohamed Salisu, who will likely start in defence today? Would you go with Lianco, or would you bring Jack Stephens back into the fold?
Really interesting question, Steve, and I think it's a selection headache for the manager. I think Lianco's come in and he's had moments within the game, and I think the manager's introduced him slowly, which I think is a good example. It worked for Salisu previously. But Jack Stephens, if you look at his performances at the beginning of the season, he was exceptional. He really was. He was leading by example. He looked like he was back to his best. He looked really aggressive, which we haven't necessarily seen from Jack in the past. So yeah, but it all depends, I think, on how fit Jack is. He's been out injured for a reasonable period of time now. I think he's been back in training for a couple of weeks now. So if Jack is fit, I'd be maybe inclined to bring him in today just because of the opposition. I think if you look at Brighton and the way they play, they're based on movement, quick movement, and Jack's strength of his game is reading the game. Those interceptions that we're seeing demonstrations of today on the highlights. But Lianco has come in and he's done fine. He really has, and he's developing and he showed signs of why the club signed him. So I think whoever comes in today will be a good option. Bednarek is obviously out injured, but I would probably lean towards Jack personally if he is fit, because he does bring that experience as well. And I think Salisu is still a young defender, still learning his trade. So if Jack's fit, I think he may get the nod today.
We will find out shortly when we bring you the team news. But Adam, what do you make of Jan then? Because he will certainly be disappointed to miss out today. But how would you sum up his time at Southampton and his role within the team now?
Well, I mean, it's been a great signing, frankly. 5 million quid back in 2017. He's approaching 150 appearances now. So he's kind of moved from joining the club as this kind of young talent and turned himself into an established Premier League centre-half now. I remember watching, I think his debut, his first game was the cup defeat against Wolves at St Mary's. And he didn't have a very good night at all. And I think we all thought then, oh goodness, what have Saints bought here? Because I think that's a gamble for a club like Saints when you're buying a young player, 5 million, obviously established in Poland, but it's a very different standard of football here, obviously in the Premier League. You don't quite know what you're going to get, and some of those signings are going to work out and some won't. But Bednarek has more than worked out. I mean, he very quickly did settle and establish himself. And he's kind of, when he's fit, he's sort of first name on the team sheet. It's been a case of who partners him more recently. And I think that's a great testament to how he's grown as a player. And he's a top Premier League centre-half now.
Yeah, well, Jan Bednarek will be one enforced change to the lineup today. Dean, do you see Ralph making other tweaks to the team?
Potentially, Steve. They've played Saturday, they've played Wednesday. It'll all depend on the condition of the players. I'm sure that's been analysed within training over the last couple of days. You could maybe have an argument of Livramento maybe getting a rest. I don't think that's down to his performances, but he was been fantastic since the start of the season, and maybe, being such a young player, maybe he could have a rest today potentially. Kyle Walker-Peters could then come back to his natural position. I think Elyounoussi could come back into the team. I think he's been very, very impressive this season, and brings a kind of different dimension to the team, the midfield area, and I think he could come in today. And then Brower, who's been in and out of late and did okay when he came on against Leicester during the week. So the manager really does have options, but I think he won't make too many changes. I think the formation will be settled again, but I think there may be one or two. You could also have the argument of Theo Walcott. I think he was rested during the week. Could he come back in, fresh legs, fresh mind, and bring something different to the team? So the blessing that the manager has, he has options, which he's always wanted. But I think there will be one or two changes today. What they will be, I'm not too sure.
Well, let's ask Adam, shall we? Do you expect to see any changes to the side that took on Leicester midweek?
I kind of feel the same about it as Dean does. Obviously, allowing for who is actually fully fit or not, which we don't see in training every day. I think there is an argument to maybe freshen up one or two. I quite like it when a manager does that in between matches when they're close together. I wonder if we'll find out, but I wonder if the Walcott resting was deliberate with kind of this in mind. And Theo, given his age now, isn't going to play 2 games in a short space of time, or less likely to if you've got options elsewhere where you can use other players. So I wouldn't be surprised if he came back in. Like Dean, you've got that option with Perraud. You can make a change and keep fresh in the fullbacks department, which is a really important one for Saints, in terms of the way they play and the way they set up. So that's definitely an option. And again, Elyounoussi, Broja, I mean, there's an argument for any of these guys. I'm like Dean. I suspect Ralph will stay largely with what he's got, but freshen it up with a couple of changes. I think that's probably a sensible move all round.
Well, before we talk about Wednesday night's match, let's cast our minds back to the game, refresh our memories of the action for Wednesday's 2-2 draw against Leicester.
Good evening from St Mary's. Cold but dry now. A bright night under the lights. Got to be careful. They get a 1-2 short from the corner. They'll pull it back to the edge of the 6-yard area. Adam shoots, and the follow-up goes in. And Jan Bednarek has his first goal of the season. Headed half clear by Salisu. Back it goes to Ndidi. This one's on target, parried and put in by Johnny Evans. Saints attacking again. Redmond, great cross, and it is third time lucky for Shea Adams. He's had 2 straight at Schmeichel, now he's missed him, and the man born in Leicester scores against Leicester. Bednarek does the right thing, clears it on the half turn. What a flick from Nathan Redmond, over halfway to Armstrong, comes in field, he's got 2 to his left, plays it behind Teller, still there's a chance. Teller's got Walker-Peters, but he shoots straight at Schmeichel. Livramento gets a short pass to Thomas. Leicester now pressing, low ball in, blocked, second bite, second goal, and we're all square at St Mary's, and it's James Maddison who started that, who scores the equaliser, nutmegs Walker-Peters. He's had a nightmare, and then Barnes gets the ball past Salisu. This should be 3-2. Great save, McCarthy. Well, Walker-Peters hits it against Salisu. They're going to give Leicester a third. In comes the shot. Oh my goodness me. You don't see Jamie Vardy miss those much. Headed up in the air by Salisu, and the referee says that's it. It's finished all square at St Mary's.
There we go, highlights there from Wednesday night's draw against Leicester. Now, Dean, we spoke already about how Jan Bednarek isn't going to be in the team today. He got a goal that evening. Tell us, how good was that set piece? Because you can see Southampton players in the box penning Leicester's players back so that Teller could remain on side.
It was really clever, Steve. If you look at the set piece, and like I mentioned after the game, the imagination was brilliant. because Leicester will be fully expecting James Ward-Prowse to take the set piece, to swing it in, and they would have worked on that, because that is their vulnerability, Leicester, from set pieces. They've not defended them well all season, and they would have been expecting James Ward-Prowse to put them under pressure. But it's very, very clever, and it's good from Southampton, and I like that. Credit, like I say, has to go to the coaching staff, has to go to the manager for coming up with something new, really. And it was a good strike from Salisu. There's two centre halves. The strike from Salisu, it's a very good save from Schmeichel. And then that little bit of luck, that little bit of fortune where, I think it's Castagna tries to clear it and it falls to Bednarat, and he reacts really, really well and scores a goal. And it was a brilliant start for Southampton. I think they'd had a set piece before that. James Ward-Prowse had broke the lines and won that corner, actually. So Southampton, especially in that first half, started with real tempo and a real impotence in the game, and were fantastic. They really were in the first half, and it was a very clever set piece that worked and caused Leicester problems.
Absolutely, and of course it was Che Adams that bagged the second goal, his fourth in 6 games, and Ralph has called him a ketchup bottle in the past. Doesn't score for a while and then plenty come at once. Adam, have you noticed him doing something differently to kind of find his scoring touch of late?
I don't know what it is about Saints managers and condiments, but I can remember Ronald Koeman talking about mayonnaise to Belvers at some length a few years ago as well. But I think the point that Ralph is getting at really is that what we've said all along is that Che is a confidence player. He really is, and his career record is goals in spurts as well. But he's becoming, I think, that there are obviously technical changes in his game as he's improving and as he's getting more used to being a Premier League striker. But I think the biggest thing is that it's his mindset. Since Danny Ings has left the club, Shea's leading the line now. He's kind of the main man. And I think that is obviously more pressure on him. But I think if you're a broad-shouldered player, I think Dean would probably agree, as you get a little bit older and a little bit more mature and more experienced, you welcome that. You want to be the main man. That's kind of how you want to live your life as a footballer. And I'm sure that's a step up Dean made, especially when you're in a position like a striker or a centre half or central midfielder where you're playing alongside somebody else. You want to be the senior man there. You want to be the guy who's kind of in charge in that area. And I think Shea's starting to take on that responsibility on his shoulders. And mentally as well, we've talked about the change that he's actually scoring a lot of different types of goals now. It's not just these instinctive finishes where he's just smashed it in from 25 yards on the turn or the balls come to him quickly. He's actually scoring goals where he's got a little bit of time to think about it, where he's got to make intelligent movement, good runs. These are the kind of goals that he's contributing regularly. And I think that these are significant changes in him, and it's less a physical thing, and I think it's more a mental thing with him, but it's really, really encouraging for Saints.
Definitely. Now, coming back to today's game, Dean, Nathan Redmond could become the first Southampton player to provide an assist for a goal in 4 consecutive Premier League home games. Now, he's had his highs and his lows as a Southampton player, but how do you think he's currently playing in the team?
Well, I think he found his form, before he missed out with the COVID, I believe he had, and then the birth of his baby. I think he was in fantastic form. He had, with Nathan, he's got such natural ability. He's got pace, and you can see, this goal against Leeds is typical Nathan Redmond, that running behind, really, really direct, and then looking for, I always think Nathan's better when he's got the chance to assist a goal, more than score a goal, really, which I think he can score goals. I think he has that ability. But with that movement he has, he gets in behind, and it's a great assist to Brower. And then, again, his delivery here against Burnley for Livramento's goal is a fantastic delivery into the box. And you've got to remember, just before that, a couple of minutes before that, he'd had a real glaring miss. So his confidence would have been a little bit low. And again, the goal on Wednesday night, I like this because if you look outside of him, he's got the option to pass the ball to James Ward-Prowse. He could have passed the responsibility on, but he didn't. He got himself turned, he played forward, and again, it's a brilliant ball into the box. So I think Nathan's playing well at the moment, and he's relished playing in different positions. He's kind of played off the front, he's played as a 10, he's played wide, left or right. So I think he's best when he has that freedom of movement, and he's not just kind of put to one side and gone, right, stay there. He's allowed to go and express himself, and he's going to make mistakes, but that's what creative players do. But when he gets it right, he's a talented player, and I think he's in very, very good form.
In indeed in fine form. Well, plenty of you have been getting in touch on social media telling us who you'd like to see in today's starting 11, and we can bring you the team news now. So let's take a look at who starts for Brighton this afternoon, against Brighton this afternoon. In goal, Alex McCarthy. The back four, Tino Livramento, Mohamed Salisu, and it's Lianco that gets the nod in Jan Bednarek's absence, and Carl Walker-Peters completes the back four. Our captain James Ward-Prowse and Oriol Romeu sit in front of them in the midfield, and then the front four is made up of Nathan Redmond, Nathan Teller, Shay Adams, and Armando Broja comes back into the starting 11. The Southampton bench is made up of Harry Lewis, Jack Stevens, Roman Perro, Ibrahima Diallo, Will Smallbone, Moyeli Anusi, Theo Walcott, Adam Armstrong, and Shane Long. So Adam, we'll come to you for your thoughts then on this team. Largely what we were expecting, the same team really as we saw in midweek with a slight freshen up, but pretty exciting to see Broja starting.
Yeah, I think that's a really exciting thing. I like him. I think he's got a lot about him. He looks like he's obviously got to prove himself yet. And this is another good opportunity for him. But when he's getting a chance, he's actually making an impact. And I think that's the really key thing at this stage of his career at Saints, is to kind of be looking like you've got that ability, which he definitely has. And the team overall, it's a good team. It's a sensible selection. We said not too many changes. I think Lianco, Dean summed it up perfectly at the start of the programme, really. It's a sensible move. Jack, as much as we like Jack, and this is really unfortunate in a way for him to have got injured when he was playing so well, and then to come back, but probably he could do with Bednarek having been injured in another week or two when he's got a bit more training under his belt, and he might have come straight back in. But so his bad luck continues. But Lianco is another player who looks like a really, really solid signing that Saints have made. He looks like a good signing, and you don't worry about him coming in. It's a big game today. There's a bit of pressure on everybody today, but I think it's a wise team selection from Ralph.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Adam just mentioned the pressure there. How do you think Armando Broja will be feeling coming into this one?
I think he'll be excited, Kenzie. I think he really will. I think if you look at it, I'm excited for him and Shay Adams to play together, because they're both physically strong, both good runners, both were good receiving the ball into their feet, and as they've shown, can both score a goal. So I think with time and patience, they could actually form a really strong partnership, because the Brighton defenders are physically strong as well, but they're not the quickest, and they don't really like running back towards their own goal. So I'm sure he'll be excited about another start today, especially at home. You know, he scored a couple of goals at home. It looks like he enjoys playing at St Mary's, which is a huge bonus. And I think it's a strong team. It's an attacking team. And I think if you look at it, you know, Ralph wants to win every game and believes he can win every game. And I think this group believes that as well. And the home form's been pretty decent this season. So yeah, Broja coming in, I think that will be good. And then again, the bench is strong. So the players coming in off the bench, whether it's half an hour to go, 20 minutes to go, can make an impact. You know, if the game's tight, which I think it will be today, I think it'd actually be a game of a lot of chances. But both teams don't score many goals, so it will come down to the small details. And I think if you look at Southampton's firepower, there's some real ability in that.
Certainly is, and don't forget you can have your say. Do let us know what you make of that starting 11. But we're going to get through some comments now that have been coming into us on social media. We've got this one here from Nick. He's watching along on Facebook. He says, wishing Saints a clear victory over Brighton. He's going for a 3-0 win. That would certainly be nice. He's watching all the way from France. Thanks for your company. Alan is also with us. He says, fight for everything. Matt is calling this one a must win. Not sure what Adam would have to say about that, but it's certainly an important one. Cameron says, watching from Cyprus, not as cold as Kenzie was the other day. He's going for a 3-1 Saints win. Still getting dug out for my attire the other night. Rosemary, hello to you. Score today, she's hoping it will be 3-1 Saints. Redders, Salisu and Adams with the goals. And Adrian is also going for 3 points today. So plenty of positivity coming in from the fans.
Yeah, there most certainly is, Kenzie. Now, Adam, we spoke a moment ago about Nathan Redmond. A stat for you here is that he's made the most passes that's led to a shot on goal with 25. But Oriol Romeu has 23. Now, he's often thought of as a tough tackling midfielder and maybe gets overlooked for his input further up the pitch.
I think that's probably true, Steve. I think he even gets overlooked a little bit for his defensive work to a certain extent. I genuinely believe he is up there with some of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League in terms of his consistency. It's absolutely remarkable. He's been a great asset to Saints for a number of years. He kind of adds that sort of. He reminds me of it's a different, slightly different type, and he's a bit like Kante when Leicester won the league. Kind of has a great solidity about him. He's not overly complicated a lot of the time, but he does the simple thing really well, and he knows his job. He's positionally very, very astute and very aware. And I think in terms of his ability going forward and what he adds to the team going forward, that's something that he's actually added to his game in more recent times, and I think that's a great credit to him and how he's a player.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Dean, tomorrow actually marks 3 years since Ralph joined us at Southampton. What have you made of his time in charge at Southampton so far? And a bit of a different question, if you were a school teacher and you had to give him a grade for his performances so far, what would you give him?
Well, I'm not sure I'd be a good school teacher, but no, I think Ralph's done a good job. I think it's been interesting. I think it's been entertaining. I think the one thing we all like is this style of play. You know, it's very attacking. You want to be entertained. His passion on the sidelines is brilliant. And you look at the moments that he's had. I think he's had a 16th finish in the league, 11th and 15th. So he's been consistent in that manner. There's not been huge funds for him to invest into the team and the squad, but he's developed players and he's made players better, which has been good. There's been some brilliant moments, you know, an FA Cup semi-final. He's had Southampton top of the league. We've been in the Champions League for periods. There's been some difficult times as well, but after them difficult times, you're just seeing that result. After losing 9-0, 9-1 to Leicester, to come back and then go and beat them is really impressive. Then that to happen again. So I think the players have grown. You know, there's been some good results, beating Liverpool at home, beating Man City at home. So I've enjoyed it, and I think there's a lot more to come from Ralph. And I think it's brilliant that Southampton's quite a unique club and a different club. They're giving him time, and I think they're giving him time to build the football club, you know, to help the academy, to bring those players into the first team, and fans want to see that. They want to see players coming through the youth system to play into the first team, and I think he gives those players that opportunity. So it's been up and down, there's been a few bumps. What grade would I give him? I think you'd probably have to go for, let's go for a B+.
Right, well, Dean's saying a B+. Adam, you look like a man who was academically prosperous. If you had to choose a grade for Ralph, what would it be?
Oh, you're way too kind, Steve. I'm not sure I was that clever, but yeah, I'd go for a solid B as well. I agree with echo a lot of what Dean said. I think when you judge a manager, you have to judge them in context, because I think it's very easy to say you want progress all the time, and every year you want progress. That's the constant call from fans. Where's the progress? Well, you have to weigh that up against the resources with which you're working all the time. And I think this has been the thing for Ralph. Yes, you can say he's been delivered a better squad, more like what he wants this year. That's true. But still, there's not a lot of investment here. It's just pretty modest. It's not, compared to some of the rivals that are around Saints, he's managing on a bit of a shoestring comparatively. You have to take that into account when you look at how he's doing. And you also always have to say, okay, let's suppose ourselves that Ralph wasn't here and Saints went and got somebody else. Who would they get? And what sort of job would they have done? Would it have been better? I honestly can't think it would have been all that much better. Yes, Ralph is developing as well as a manager, of course. There have been some bad times, no doubt about that. I mean, losing 9-0 twice is pretty bad. But actually the style of which Saints play, I think, is what I really like about Ralph. It's like, if you're going to be kind of a lesser club, if you like, in the league, you're not in the Big Six, you're not competing to win the Premier League or qualify for the Champions League, then what do you want, really? You don't want to just turn up and watch your team defensively grind out enough points to just about stay up every year. You want to see a team that's going to give you some entertainment. You want to enjoy watching them play. And part of that probably is being unpredictable as well. And that's what Saints are. And Ralph has developed a style that's unique, I think, in the league at the moment. It's really entertaining. And fans, you turn up, you're not quite sure what you're going to get a lot of the time, but you're going to be entertained. And I think if you're coming to Saints as a Saints fan, number one, you want them to stay in the Premier League. He's delivered that. Number two, you want to be entertained. He's delivered that. So I think, you can't give him an A because it's not been some crazy thing that's happened that's been totally exceptional, but definitely a B because given the resources he's had, I think he's done a good job.
I think Ralph will be pretty content with a B there. We do love Ralph. Well, let's speak about today's opponents then, shall we, Dean? Brighton. A bit of an unusual one from them. Obviously, 4 wins from their first 5 games, but they're without a win now in their last 9 matches. How would you assess their season so far?
I think they've been excellent. I think they've almost been a little bit of a victim of their own success. I think within, like you say, no win within 9. I think there's been 7 draws within that. So again, like I mentioned quite a lot, it's down to the small detail. And they're a really good team. They are. They've got some fantastic players, younger players coming through that play a possession game that's entertaining, create a lot of chances, but just can't seem to get that goal or that second goal to maybe win a game. Their home form's been in and out, but their away form's been pretty decent. You know, you look at the draw they've just had with West Ham, are having a good season. The draw they got at Anfield 2-2, I mean, that's no mean feat. Liverpool are on fire this season. They've been fantastic. So Brighton are a good team. Where they're going to end up, I'm not too sure, because it comes down to, like a lot of teams in the Premier League, you're missing that goal scorer, that player that can get you 15 to 20 goals, because then he can get you an extra 10, 15 points, and that really takes you up into the top 10, the top 8. But I think if Brighton can get into the top 10, that'll be a good season. But they've got some good players. You know, Lamptey's coming back, who's an exceptional player. Basuma in midfield is one of the best midfielders in the league, I believe. Sanchez in goal is an upcoming goalkeeper. And defensively, Brighton have been pretty strong. So, like I previously said, I think there's going to be a lot of chances today. Not a great deal of goals, but no, Brighton have been pretty good this season and pretty solid, and Graham Potter is an exciting manager, and I think they've made a very good appointment at Brighton as him as manager.
Casting our eyes to the league table, Adam, Southampton remain in 16th following Wednesday night's draw with Leicester, but are closer to Brighton in 9th than they are to Burnley in 18th. Now, I know you don't do must-win games, but how much would a win help here today?
Yeah, I'm not must-win, but a win would be helpful. I think, especially when you consider Burnley and Newcastle are playing this afternoon as well. So the table is obviously going to change a bit at the bottom. I'm not fearful for Saints in terms of their Premier League status this year, particularly. But from their point of view, they don't want to get drawn in. You know, December's a busy time of year. There's a lot of games coming up. You don't want to feel like you're going through that period under substantial pressure to get results because you're really fearful and looking over your shoulder. Brighton, Dean knows more about Brighton than pretty much anybody, with the amount that he's seen them, and you take what he says as gospel really on Brighton, and from what I've seen, I completely agree with him. They've got a lot about them, but they are kind of a rival to Saints. They're sort of in that similar type of position, I guess, that they're hoping not to be fighting relegation, and then the next step after that is, can you be fighting upper mid-table into the top half of the table? And I think Saints and Brighton are two clubs that very much see themselves as wanting to go there, with exciting young managers who are dynamic. They're both playing interesting, different styles of football to get there. But a win for Saints today would be big. Because I think otherwise they run the risk of finding themselves under increasing pressure this month. And I think you just always want to keep that pressure off yourself. So getting a win today would be really significant and give them kind of that feeling of momentum, I think, going into even more fixtures piling up in the next 3 weeks.
Absolutely. Well, we are edging ever closer to kick-off here at St Mary's Stadium. So before we do come to Dean and Adam for their score predictions. Let's head back to social media for the final time today to hear what the fans are having to say on both the team news and what they think the score will be. We have a comment here from Dean. He says, we need the 3 points today, echoing really what Adam's just said. He says, come on Saints, from Dino, the Northern Saint forever. James on YouTube is going for a 2-0 win. Derek is also with us. Hello to you. He says, come on you Saints. Alex has said, what a lineup. It looks pretty aggressive. JB says, great team. He's also said Romeu is his absolute favourite player, a leader on the field, but also a truly great human. Absolutely. Jennifer's going for a 2-1 win today. James is also pleased with the lineup. He says, great lineup. And we've got a comment here from John, who says he's hoping it will be 2-1 to the Saints. Prowsey and Walker-Peters with the goals. And he's also joining us all the way from Minnesota, where he says it's currently -2 degrees, otherwise translated as stop moaning about the temperature in Southampton, Kenzie. John, you win. Well, let's get the thoughts of Dean and Adam then on what they think the score is going to be. We've mentioned Brighton are tough opponents. What do you think the scoreline is going to be today, Dean?
Well, I think it's been a really good game. I think it will. We'll tough opponents. I think tactically it'll be a good battle between the two managers. I think it'll be played at a really good tempo. But as my predictions and guesses have not been great this season, I don't think there's going to be many goals. But I was speaking to my son on the way up on the drive we had, and I'm going to go with his prediction, see if I can get one right. So he's gone for a 2-1 Southampton win today.
Okie dokes. Well, listen, if he does get it correct, you're going to have to ask him before every game in the future. You know that.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, Adam, what are your thoughts then? How do you think the Saints are going to get on this afternoon?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I actually feel quite optimistic about this game. I think I take what Dean says about Brighton and the way they play and the way they've been and the fact they haven't lost much. But I think that I talked about Saints being under pressure. I think Brighton will also be feeling a bit of pressure. You've got to get a win at some point. You can't keep on sort of bimbling along in sort of going 9 games without getting a win. So I think they're going to feel the pressure because for them, yes, they're away from home, but they'll look at this as a game that they can win as well. And I think that might just play into Saints' hands a little bit. I have a feeling Saints are going to be a bit more comfortable today. And so I'm going to go for a Saints win as well, 2-0.
Lovely stuff. 2-0 and 2-1 today are our score predictions. Adam, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Lanzarote. We'll let you get back now to your poolside or your sun lounger. Just try not to raid the mini fridge before the post-match show, all right?
I'll try and sober up.
and Dean, thank you so much for joining us again. You'll be sitting with us up here in the stands watching the match through the game. Now, not long to go here at St Mary's until Southampton kick-off against Brighton.
That's right, and as always we'll be back after the game for the final whistle, so make sure you join us then. Bye for now.